Good morning. I think we'll begin. Welcome to the 10th annual CFAR Fall Scientific Retreat. This is, I think, our biggest one so far. We've had over 150 registrants and 47 abstracts submitted, so we'll have 44 posters to review throughout the day. It's been an extraordinarily busy year, and I want to spend the next 10 minutes or so to provide you with some updates. As we do every year, we go through some of the chronology, but the important thing is that July 1st of this year began our 10th year CFAR funding, and most importantly, our competitive renewal year. So we submitted the competitive renewal. It was due on July 28th. We actually got it in 2 days early, but it was a huge undertaking, and we'll talk a little bit more about the competitive renewal in a couple minutes. Again, the finances. It looks like fiscal year 2013, we're leveling off at about $32 million as far as our funded research base from the NIH. Remember, the magic number is always $40 million when you're doing your competitive renewal to go up to the next tier. So we fell a little bit short, but again, I think we're fine as a tier 1 for now, but there's room to grow. We've grown a little bit as far as membership is concerned. We're now about 329, which is, I think, phenomenal. Given the fact we started off with that 74 way back when. So it's, we've experienced quite a bit of remarkable growth. Just to remind you that this is an infrastructure grant, and it is funded by several co-funding institutes and centers at the NIH. They're listed here. We are very NIAID-centric, and you'll see in the next slide when I show it. But we do want to recognize all of the co-funding institutes and centers. We're looking to broaden our portfolio as we move forward, and hopefully at some point in time involve all of these co-funding institutes who contribute to the CFAR program. This is a figure from the grant, and it simply depicts, if we look at fiscal years 2010 through 2013, the amount of AIDS-related funding to Duke totaled about $144 million. And you can see we are very NIAID-centric, with about 85% of that coming from grants funded through NIAID. But we're starting to grow at NICHD and NIDA and NIMH, again, largely through some of the SBS efforts that are ongoing. And we hope, again, to include NIA, National Institute of Aging, and others as some of our programs begin to mature a bit. So the competitive renewal, as I said, was submitted July 28th. This was the first actual electronic submission of a huge multi-project, multi-investigator grant by Duke. And so we were the guinea pigs, and luckily we had the backing of some geniuses from ORA and from the dean's office, et cetera, and it went quite smoothly, although there was a rush. You can imagine with a couple of days left, but we actually got it in a couple of days early so that we could look at it and see what it looked like on ERA, and if we didn't like it, we could pull it back and make some corrections and reload it, and it was nice to have that bit of cushion. So that was quite an achievement. It's scheduled for peer review this month. In fact, I have a notion it's probably going to be reviewed tomorrow and Friday. I don't know that for a fact, but we should hear its fate fairly shortly, and we hope it's a good fate. If it's awarded, the funding will begin July 1st of 2015 at the current $1.5 million per year. That's total costs, and with a new indirect cost rate at Duke, I think, of 59%, you can do the math. So it's a little bit under $1 million of direct costs per year. If it's not awarded, and we hope that's not the case, but we're not completely out of the water. They reduce the funding by 50%. And the revised proposal would need to be submitted for peer review for next September. And so in a worst-case scenario, we would make every effort to preserve some of the most critical infrastructure support elements, namely the small grants and essential CFAR services. And I wanted to point out that many of the elements that made up the competitive renewal were driven by your responses to the CFAR membership survey, and we'll go over those in just a few minutes. Some of the key elements in the renewal that we think represent strengths. Initial review groups at the NIH love to look at institutional support and see whether you're getting enough institutional support or not. We have, for the past 10 years, I guess, enjoyed $300,000 per year from the School of Medicine in matching funds, and that's been used to drive our small grants program and our recruitment program. And we decided that we wanted to expand some other programs, and so requested an increase from $300,000 to $450,000 a year, and thought we'd give it a shot. And actually, through the good graces of the School of Medicine, the Dean, and Alan Kirk, the new Chairman of Surgery, we are going to approach $450,000 a year of indirect cost recovery that we can use to fund some of the programs moving forward. So we hope that's viewed as a big plus. So, yeah, the additional funding will be used. Well, remember, we've done strategic partnership RFAs with the Department of Medicine. We think that's a good model. We've had good success. There's been a good return on investment, and Herman Statz will talk about that shortly. So we want to expand that to other co-funding partners, DHVI maybe, Global Health, the Pepper Center, et cetera. So we want to use the extra money that we're getting from the Dean's office to expand the strategic partnership co-funding RFAs. From the survey, many people said they wanted a spring event, a little bit different than the CFAR retreat, and so we've built in finances for that, and we're going to need your input as far as, are we talking about a mini symposium, or what kind of things we might want to do in the spring to kind of bring the CFAR membership together again. We want to increase support for our working groups. We'll talk about that a little bit. And we also want to get support for community outreach efforts. Also, in response to the survey, a new website. Everyone, I think, agreed the website we had was basically useless, and hopefully we've gotten a lot better. Invest a lot of time and effort, and following the 3 upcoming talks, there will be a tour of the new website that hopefully will attract you to using some of its features. We want to build on the key CFAR metrics, return on investment, small grant support and recruitment, and again, Herman will talk about that in a few minutes. We also want to expand our regular chalk talks. That was a real feature of the CFAR survey. The CFAR sponsored and co-sponsored seminars and the services like, for example, the biostatistics walk-in clinics. And then lastly, we want to enhance our efforts to attract underrepresented minorities to the field of HIV/AIDS research. And thanks to, again, an initiative that Herman began, we formed a partnership with Sherilyn Black, who is director of the Office of Biomedical Graduate Diversity. And this is something that, as we move forward with the next iteration of CFAR, we want to make this a high priority. This is a little bit different version of the organizational chart. This is from the grant. Just want to emphasize that we have a vetting structure. Everything is run through the administrative core, but there is a vetting structure that is the CFAR Executive Committee that's made up of the directors and co-directors of each of the cores. So all the decisions are really made through this CFAR Executive Committee. And we enlist the help of an internal advisory committee, which meets twice a year, and an external advisory committee, which meets once every 2 years. And all of the decisions, and also we're now going to enlist greater participation by a community advisory board. And all of the research cores are, again, governed by the executive committee, as are the scientific working groups. And we decided that in order to really manage the scientific working groups, we needed a leader there, and so Brian Cullen is the scientific working group program leader. One of our biggest strengths, I think, are our strategic partnerships that we have at Duke. And this is just a partial list, and again, if I've forgotten somebody that's a department that's represented here today, my apologies, but these are some of the key ones. And again, these are the partners that we want to start co-funding RFAs with and trying to engage a little bit further. And in each retreat we've had for the past 9 years, our last session is always devoted to having our strategic partners talk to us, and this year is no exception. So the final session of today's retreat will deal with that. Just wanted to point out some new arrivals at Duke. I mentioned Alan Kirk as the new chairman of surgery, came from Emory. Ann Reed is the new chairman of pediatrics. Richard O'Brien, chair of neurology. And I think those are the 3 that we were waiting last time I made this slide. And we look forward to engaging them as we move forward. As you know, we have 2 working groups that run out of the administrative core, but actually run through Brian now, through Brian Cullen. Mika Luftig's The first one, Mika's AIDS-associated opportunistic infections and cancer working group, which is the most mature, has had numerous meetings. The membership has swollen, and we have actually awarded an RFA to that group to do some studies, and you'll be hearing about that maybe not today, but in the near future. Second working group is HIV and aging, and Mary McKellar is heading that, and that has grown in membership also. And actually, through a mini symposium that was held at Washington Duke earlier this year, it was quite enlightening because I think we joined the efforts of some of the cardiologists and other disciplines that now are getting involved in HIV/AIDS research and dealing with comorbidities and also aging. We're allowed to have up to 3 working groups, and we're considering a third group, and the one we've always looked at is HIV cure. You've been hearing a lot about that, and 2 years ago when we looked back at our portfolio, we really didn't have anybody working on HIV cure. And so it was a little bit of an anomaly. But I think as a direct result of some of the co-funding that was done through the Department of Medicine and the awards that were made and the interest that's been spurred through collaborations with other CFARs, we now have started to list some people who really would qualify as cure investigators in the Duke CFAR. And you're going to hear from some of them today: Donald Fox, Emily Camp, Mary Klotman, the recipient of a Creative and Novel Ideas in HIV Research Award, Ben Yellen, David Murdoch, David Margolis from UNC, another CNR Award recipient, Norman Chen, Guido Ferrari, recent R21 recipient, and then Brian and Matt Kennedy have put in an R01 submission that's currently under review, and we think there may be others. So again, as it starts to grow, we're considering forming a formal group, but we'll keep you posted as to that progress. This is just a reminder that we went over this in great detail last year. We've reorganized the Immunology Corps and now offer quite an array of different services and features that, again, were requested by many of you in the CFAR survey. So you'll be able to check this out a little bit better on the website, the new website, than you were on the old. The survey, again, largely positive comments. You like the annual retreat. You wanted expanded immune assay services, wanted a spring event. We're going to try and do that if we get funded. And requests for more meetings, retreats, et cetera. Need for a better website. So we're listening to you. Need for greater access to clinical samples. I think that's happening quite nicely. Availability of CFAR core services for non-HIV research. I remind you that the cores are permitted to do non-HIV research. It's just there's a hierarchy, and we're obligated to, if there is a queue, the people at the front of the line are doing HIV research, but if there is available time, we can support non-HIV research. And then continued funding opportunities, we look to expand. We hate to burden you with surveys, because I'm not a big survey fan myself, although being on the other end and seeing how valuable they are from the first survey we did, we are going to burden you one more time early next year with another survey, just to kind of keep in touch with you. It's a good way for you to communicate with us. Obviously, there are many other ways to communicate with us through the website, through direct emails, phone calls, et cetera. But be on the lookout for a CFAR survey early next year. So we need your help to improve the effectiveness of the Duke CFAR. You keep hearing value-added aspects. This is a metric that NIH wants, the IRGs want, and so we're held accountable for this. So we're always on the lookout for specific examples of value-added that the CFAR brings to Duke. We need suggestions for seminar and chalk talk speakers and topics. Again, this is your CFAR, and rather than have us dictate speakers, et cetera, we want to keep as broad a repertoire of speakers and topics as possible. So we are always open to suggestions for speakers and chalk talk topics. Suggested areas for future retreats and potential symposia, especially if we do a spring mini symposium. We really want to enlist your help in organizing that. Identification of potential new CFAR members. It really is word of mouth now that some of you will hear of someone who is interested or has a project doing HIV research that we know nothing about. And please come forward and let us know, and we will add them to the roster and welcome them as new CFAR members. How can we become more involved in community outreach? This is something that we think is very important as we move forward. And actually, I'm going to step aside and let Julia Greiner. Julia, you want to speak to that for a few minutes?
So good morning, everyone. I am a liaison for the Duke AIDS Research and Treatment Center Community Advisory Board. We're called the DART CAB. The DART CAB has been in existence for a long time, I think probably close to 20-some or even more than 20 years. Started off as something that was required under one of our other NIH grants. The DART CAB is made up of about 30 community members infected or affected with HIV/AIDS. They represent a gamut of concerns of the community about research that is being done. They are our representatives for the Pediatric Infectious Diseases Clinic, for the Adult Infectious Diseases Clinic, for our CFAR grant, as well as for our Ryan White Part D program. Today is something a little bit different because we actually have a table set up here. The table has a lot of teaching information that we would bring to a health fair. I know that the people who are here most likely do not need any of that information themselves, but I would encourage you to come by, take a look at the information that we have here, and also bring that information to people who may need it. If you are ever interested in us coming to one of your church groups or any other groups, we love to do health fairs. We love to do different things like that. Every 2 months we do meet as a group, and we focus on education. A lot of the education is about different research that's being done in any of those areas that I listed. We just recently on Monday had a great talk, and Mary McKellar was there. And one of the things that she actually talked about as well was HIV and aging. And there were a lot of interesting comments made from community members about HIV and aging that then she can bring back to her collaborators as well. So the CAB really has an intricate part to play in research that's being conducted at Duke, and we are very happy to be here today and look forward to being included in the future in more and more things.
Thank you. Thank you. Again, the big question is how can CFAR better serve the clinical and basic research communities at Duke? And again, we are open to any and all suggestions. And please, when you see the survey come around, I think last time we sent it out and we actually had 100 participants, which I think was pretty good for a first shot. We work with the SBS Corps in formulating the survey because we're novices. They know how to ask the questions. So again, we are trying not to burden you, and we'll do this maybe every 2 or 3 years, but I think it's very valuable, the type of input that you can give us through these surveys. But again, if you have ideas, don't wait for the survey. Please contact us through any of the other means I mentioned. So everything is good. I think we have one potential Achilles heel, and this is something we bring up at the end of I think this talk I gave for the last 9 years. But I figured I'd show you an example, and then maybe you appreciate what I'm talking about. This was part of a report that was given to our External Advisory Committee meeting in January. And this happened to be the flow cytometry core. Janet Statz had prepared this. And the real key feature was that over the past 5 years, that core had assisted in 82 publications, yet only 28 were acknowledged in the publication, so 34%. The key is that CFAR-supported publications are a key metric, or is a key metric for CFAR added value. And the NIH will only credit us with those publications that actually acknowledge the Duke CFAR. And so this is not a problem that's just at the Duke CFAR, it's a problem CFAR-wide, all the other CFARs. But I think we really need to make an effort to do much, much better. And it's not just, well, I didn't receive a small grant, so I don't acknowledge CFAR. If you're sitting here today, again, hopefully you feel that you're taking advantage of some of the infrastructure that CFAR brings to Duke, and you would feel hopefully better about maybe acknowledging CFAR support, even from the standpoint of infrastructure. So that's something we really need to do better. We keep saying that visibility is everything, and it really is. And again, really, really appreciate your support in this. I just want to acknowledge two people. As we put together the competitive renewal, we couldn't have done this without the help of two giants. I said they're emissaries from the Dean's office to make us look great, and they really have done a great job doing this. And that's Joanna Downer and Gina Dellaporta. Gina, stand up. Gina's here. I don't think Joanna can make it, but we need to applaud her. I was actually going to flash up a near mature draft of a page on the competitive renewal before they got a hold of it, and then after it with all the track changes, but I figured that would be too embarrassing to me, so I didn't do it. But they were tremendous, and I hope that they're really charged with working on large grants, but I hope you have the opportunity to interact with Gina and Joanna at some point, and you'll see how fantastic they are in helping you put grants together and making sure they look great. Lastly, CFAR Directors Award. This is the 6th year we've done this, and it's to recognize someone throughout the year who's contributed significantly to added value. We keep stressing this comes out of my pocket, my wife's pocket, so it's not School of Medicine, it's not taxable, or we don't violate any kind of gift clauses. So this is just my way of thanking an individual who has gone out of the way. And so the winner this year is Herman Statz. If you don't realize that Herman has tireless leadership of the developmental corps, and especially his oversight of the CFAR semi-annual RFAs, the strategic partnership RFAs, the conduct of peer review sessions, trying to track down reviewers, trying to keep them honest, and to conduct the sessions, to generate summary statements, and then actually to be very meticulous in meeting with the applicants, and even those who were not awarded, and especially those who did not receive the award, so he can review what the problems were and hopefully be instructive. And again, untold number of behind-the-scenes mentoring activities in support of the membership. So, Herman, I'm going to give you a gift certificate to Nana's, and I'm going to hand over the podium to you. Congratulations.